What is up, Flick fans, and welcome to a brand new series on my channel called Review Roundup. So I'm not going to do this every week or even every month, but sometimes you just have too much stuff to watch. And in this case, I have 3 movies that I have watched within the last 2 weeks, and I didn't get to do individual videos. So what I'm doing in this video is I'm doing a very short review for each, maybe 3 to 4 minutes apiece, just to give you guys my thoughts, because I want you guys to know how I feel about these movies. And since they're fairly new, I figured why not sit down and talk about each of them for a shorter period of time than I normally do. That way you guys don't have to click on 3 videos, you can click on one, you get everything you want. Sometimes there are movies that I watched that came out like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm not going to include those in the Review Roundup video series, but if they have come out in the last week, week and a half, up to 2 weeks, I'm going to put those in there. And today's movies that I'm talking about are Can You Ever Forgive Me?, Widows, and Boy Erased. And I actually just walked out of Boy Erased, so that's what we're talking about first. So let's talk about Boy Erased. So the son of a Baptist preacher is forced to participate in a church-supported gay conversion program after being forcibly outed to his parents. And my goodness, I was walking into this movie not knowing what to expect. Actually, I had a pretty good idea what was going to happen, even though I thought they'd maybe switch it up on me a little bit. Joel Edgerton is the director of this film. I really liked what he did with The Gift. I thought he directed that fantastically. He also has a co-starring role in this movie, and he was good. I liked him a lot, but my favorite performance in this film may be from that of Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe just completely disappeared into this role. Listen, I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I know a lot of Baptist preachers who maybe aren't this mean-spirited about certain things, but this guy acted exactly like people that I know in my everyday life, and I really liked his performance. Nicole Kidman was really good. Lucas Hedges, the guy just delivers. I feel like I see him every week in a movie theater. He was really good, although his fake crying was a little bit too much for me, but he was still good in the role. I always like him. The film does a lot of things right. It hits those emotional beats, and I really got invested in these characters, a lot more than I thought I was going to be at the start of the film. My big issue with it is basically it follows this premise. It follows a predictable storyline that I anticipated everything that was going to happen, and everything that I expected did happen. They didn't change it up. They didn't do things a little bit different. And the way that they went about this movie, you look at a film like Beautiful Boy that was edited in this very interesting way. I wish they would have done something like that to Boy Erased, because it just felt a bit typical to me in the way that it was paced and edited. I was watching this with this feeling that I've seen this movie before, not necessarily the source material, just the way that it is told, directed. I'm not saying anything bad about the directing, because the directing was solid. It just didn't take those risks or take those chances that I thought it would when I first saw that trailer. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an Oscar movie. I'm not going to put it quite on that caliber, but the performances in the film, I would say those are Oscar worthy. I could see 2 or 3 nominations because the acting was just so good. They definitely go for those cliched emotional beats, and honestly, they hit those marks every now and then, especially the end of the film. I wanted more out of the ending, more of a resolution to certain storylines and certain characters, and I also wanted them to explore the reform program a little bit more. We get to see his side of the story, but they don't dive into some of those side characters, and once we start finding out what happened to a few of them, you're like, oh, I really wish I would have known more about that person. But overall, Boy Erased was a really good movie, sucked me into the storyline, really good acting, and that is why I'm going to give Boy Erased a 73%. Look, I didn't dive deep into the characters in this movie, but I'm just saying, the pastors and the preachers and all those crazy Republicans that you guys are talking about that I know here in Kentucky, they're not as crazy as that. I'm sure they exist. This movie did make some of them look bad, and I just want you to know they're not all crazy. Although in this movie they were. And now the film that I got a few requests to talk about, and that is Widows. We're talking about that right now. Set in contemporary Chicago amid the time of turmoil, 4 women with nothing in common except a debt left behind by their dead husband's criminal activities take fate into their own hands and conspire to forge a future on their own terms. That premise is exactly what I wanted from this film. Watching that trailer for Widows, one of my favorite trailers of the year. I just love the way it's handled. And this cast, 1000% the best part of the movie. My goodness, this cast is so incredible. Viola Davis, Michelle Rodriguez, Liam Neeson, John Bernthal. I could go all day. I think the person we need to talk about is Elizabeth Debicki, who gives the best performance, in my opinion, of the movie, with Viola Davis not far behind her. She is fantastic. I didn't know much about her going in, but my goodness, I could once again see some Oscar nominations coming this way towards this film in the acting category. And shout out to Daniel Kaluuya for being this really menacing villain, but a little over the top, maybe not in the movie that I was watching, but I would be lying if I said I didn't love every minute of it. I really like Daniel Kaluuya. Look, the acting is great, the cinematography is gorgeous. Steve McQueen, I can never judge the way his films look because they're just executed so perfectly from a technical standpoint. My issue with this film is more the storyline and the screenplay as opposed to the technical aspects and the acting. This movie struggles from pacing issues, it lacks a focus. It starts out and you feel like you're focused on this heist, and that's really what this entire thing is building up to. Can they pull this off? Can they accomplish this mission? But then you have the political things and these other characters' side stories, and then the side stories of the characters that we're concerned about, yet they're still not explored in the way that I wanted them to be. There's a lot going on in Widows, a lot more than I anticipated, and sometimes, if you execute it properly, it can work, but I don't think Steve McQueen executed this fully. I think he gave us a lot of really good things and really good ideas here, a beautiful looking film. There's just a lot going on, and for me, it was a little bit too much, and when you get to the end and they try to give you that fantastic payoff, it only lasts about 10 minutes, and I did not get the payoff that I was anticipating. They kind of rushed through the part that you don't want them to rush through and focus on these other things that, in my opinion, don't matter as much. The long-winded storylines and the political stuff, I could have done without a lot of that, and like I said, they just don't dive into the things that I wanted them to dive in. They focused on things, in my opinion, that were not as important to the storyline, and that gives you a movie that was a little bit muddled. There's still enough in there for me to really enjoy it. I had a good time with the movie. I just walked out, and the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, well, that part didn't work, and then this part was a little bit, and they try to give you this epic twist at the end, and for me, the twist was a little bit of a cop-out. I liked the movie before the twist comes along, I'm like, this is the point to me where it becomes a little bit too much. And maybe I'm complaining so much because I wanted this movie to be incredible. I wanted it to honestly be in my top 10 of the year. It did not reach those heights, even though I still think it was a good movie. There's a lot of great things in there. Once again, the nominations will be aplenty when it comes to either cinematography or acting or whatnot. I just wanted it to be a Best Picture nominee. That's all I want. That's all I want with every movie. Am I asking too much? Probably. Overall, guys, I know it sounds like I'm still complaining, but I liked Widows. I think it's worth a watch, especially if you like all of these actors and Steve McQueen as a director, and that is why I'm going to give Widows a 72%. Check this out in a theater. It came out this weekend. It's the newest of the bunch, and Steve McQueen is a director that's never really made a bad movie, so that's cool. And now we get to maybe the most surprising film of the bunch, and that is Can You Ever Forgive Me? So when best-selling celebrity biographer Lee Israel is no longer able to get published because she has fallen out of step with current tastes, she turns her art form into deception, abetted by her loyal friend Jack. This thing stars Melissa McCarthy, and if you guys would have asked me before I watched all three of these movies, Austin, which movie are you going to like the least? I probably would have said this one because this is the one that I wasn't as excited for as the other two, but guess what? I like this movie more than the other two. And I don't mean to compare them, that's not what this video is about. I'm just reviewing the three films. I'm just telling you guys, I was so shocked with how much I enjoyed this film. There is so much to love here, starting with Melissa McCarthy, who is genuinely a good actor. She just gets caught up in these roles sometimes that don't do her justice. I like her comedy, but she needed to expand, and she did with Can You Ever Forgive Me? She gives an Oscar nomination-worthy performance here. My goodness, she made this film. And while she is funny in this movie, it's nice to see her flex that dramatic muscle and give us a performance that was really meaty, in-depth. I love this film because it's a character exploration. We get with her, we stick with her throughout the entire thing. We like her, even though she's doing some things that maybe aren't the best things ever, but you understand she just wants to be good at what she considers to be her job. That's her goal. We understand that. And the movie is almost stolen by Richard E. Grant, who comes in and knocks out his performance. If she wasn't so good, good, then I think he would have stolen the movie. Their relationship sells this entire film. Without that, it's not that good. And I love how they gave us character aspects of both of them, and they never really dove into them because they didn't have to. I think it would have lost focus from the main story, but they gave us just enough to like, oh, that's interesting, and that's interesting, and I love how you're kind of just whetting our palates and not giving us as much as we want. Sometimes I would consider that a bad thing, but in this movie's case, it never lost focus on what we liked about the movie, and I love that. Marielle Heller is her name, and she directed this film. She establishes a tone at the beginning, such an interesting tone that sucks you into this world, from the shot selection to the way that it's following her and tracking her movement. Guys, I really just love the directing of this movie. Very shocked with how much she pulled me into this story that honestly, let me tell you, I was not that interested. It's about a girl who creates fake published letters from known book writers and sells them for money. Am I boring you? Am I putting you to sleep with that plot description? Guess what? I almost didn't even see the movie because it was just so uninteresting to me. And I think that's kind of a knock on myself. Can I get myself in trouble for just a second? Don't not go see a movie because of A, what everyone else thinks of it, or B, if you think it sounds uninteresting but everybody else is saying it's good, go see a movie if you want to see a film. Do not listen to other people. Make up your mind for yourself. And that's what I did. I was uninterested in this plot, but I saw the talent behind the camera and in front of it, and I said, you know what? I don't know how this movie could be bad. And guess what? It was not. It was really good. It was engaging. It was exciting. They made a subject like this something that I don't see myself forgetting by the end of the year, and that's why I'm going to give Can You Ever Forgive Me an 82%. One of the better movies I've seen this year. Listen, all three of these films are good. They're all worth watching. If I had to recommend one, I would say Can You Ever Forgive Me? But it's all according on what genre you want to see. Do you want to get emotional? Do you want to see people rob banks? Do you want to follow a character for 2 hours? There's so much to watch. This is why I love movies, and now it's up to you guys to figure out what movie are you going to see next. And this is not the only set of films that I've watched and not reviewed. There are multiple other ones, such as The Old Man and the Gun and The Hate You Give. I just did a review for The Hate You Give on my Patreon page, so if you guys are patrons, you can go check that out right now, see what's going on over there. I'm offering exclusive reviews and content all the time. I just did my first one with The Hate You Give, and there's a lot more coming. I'm also always reviewing videos on Letterboxd and Stardust. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and there are a lot of movies coming out this week. Green Book, Creed 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet. I'm going to be reviewing all three of those things, so stay tuned. I'll catch you guys later.